welcome to episode 1 of my intercooler install. This will probably be a multi-part series. So I'm going to break it up a little bit instead of doing one big hour-long episode. I'd rather break it up so that you can pick and choose which episodes that you want to watch. This is long overdue. I should have intercooled this thing from the beginning, but I've always desired to supercharge on a budget, and I wanted to do that so that you guys could also do that. Intercooling is so important because Travis at Elate has a modular adapter, which is what I have. I'm able to add the intercooler later, and that was the plan all along. I've been running my car safely at 7 PSI. If you don't already know, it's manual swapped and supercharged with an M112 SVT Cobra supercharger. So go back and check out those episodes if you want to. This series is about putting the intercooler on after the fact. The adapter from Elate allows me to add the actual intercooler, and then what we need to do is we need a pump, and we need a swirl tank, and we need lines, and we need a relay, and we need a holder, and we need a heat exchanger. Now the heat exchanger is different than a front mount intercooler. It has only liquid going through it, so we're gonna call it a heat exchanger. Well, I really like that front mount intercooler look. I was asking myself, is there any way to replicate that look? Because I do have forced induction. I'm not trying to be a turbo poser. But I do like the front mount intercooler look, and I think it makes a car formidable coming down the road, especially when us car folks know what to look for. I don't know about you, but when I see that front mount intercooler coming down the road on another vehicle, I kind of look in the mirror and I'm going, oh boy, that thing means business. Or they're a poser, one of the two. Nonetheless, I have found a heat exchanger that actually fits into the second gen GS front lower grille area. The problem with this is you're gonna have to put some work into it to get it to fit. You might look over here and see that my bumper cover is already off. It's not the easiest bumper cover to remove, and the whole thing kind of just pulls off the front of the vehicle, and then you can set it down. It's not very heavy or anything like that. But that is the only way that I found to get this thing to get test fit, because you have to mount it from the bottom. So I'm going to show you the process to do that in a later episode, but I'm filming a little bit out of sequence. This episode is about the parts. I will hyperlink to everything in the video description, so you can always go there and go check out the parts that I used. What I'm not going to show today are the 3/4 inch coolant lines, because I don't have them yet. I still need to test fit my heat exchanger on the front of the car to make sure that I know how much line to get. And I won't be showing the relay for the pump. So let's go over here now and take a look. This is the Elate intercooler, which will be fitting inside of the Elate adapter, which is right here. That intercooler will mount inside of there, and it came with some fittings as well, which will be protruding from the back of the adapter, and of course they'll be sealed. So this piece here, it's still wrapped in plastic. I'm trying to be careful with it. Nice piece. It's heavy. It's actually much heavier than this thing, which we'll talk about in a second. You have an in and an out. That coolant will be going in and coming out. Next is the Bosch pump, which is actually intended for a VW. I'll put the link in the video description. So if you're interested in this pump, it's got 3/4 in and out. You're gonna need to get a plug adapter. This is one of those Beck Arnley plug adapters that fits right here. You're gonna need a relay in order to do a 12-volt switch source on this, which I don't have shown here. This is a generic bracket. It's actually too big for this pump. It does work when I put it around right up here. So I think I'm gonna keep it because I kind of like how it looks. You're gonna need a smaller one, or you're gonna need to add some foam here on the inside to hold this properly. Next we have a swirl tank or a reservoir, and believe it or not, this is actually out of an Infiniti Q50. And the thing I don't like about this one is that it's 3/4 right here, which is great, but this one here is 1/2 inch. I really wanted to keep the 3/4 inch theme going with everything here, or the eBay auction didn't list what size that was, and I should have asked. But anyways, I got this for 30 bucks, so it's not too bad. Looks pretty OEM. It's got a nice cap. I cleaned it out with some isopropyl alcohol. This thing is pretty big, and this is about as big as you can go on the second gen GS. It actually is going to mount the other way, so I just have it flipped around because I have a pad right there to protect the fins. These are 3/4 also. This is going to be in and out. So you can see that how that would look on the vehicle. It'd look pretty cool, right? Up front. Looks like one of those front mount intercoolers for sure. These are the main parts, the primary parts. Get this from Elate. This is the only thing that'll fit in that adapter up there properly. You're gonna need a little bit smaller. Here's the Bosch pump, which I'm probably gonna mount in the fender well out of the engine bay. And then here's the plug that'll go into the bottom of it. We'll need a relay, and then we'll need some lines. And I'll show you guys in the other episodes exactly how this stuff all fits together. I think in episode 2, I'm gonna show you how to mount up the heat exchanger because it's a bear. Look at this. I have the whole front bumper cover ripped off right now. I've done some cleanup in here and some painting and some other things just to make it look a little better, but it required quite a bit. I mean, it barely fits in here, but it does fit. So I'm happy to report that it does fit. So I'll do an episode on this exclusively and show you guys exactly how to do a really cool heat exchanger that looks like a front mount intercooler. And it'll be peeking through my grill. So it's gonna be pretty low key, but it will show up to people that know what to look for. And also the cool thing is when you are standing in front of the vehicle and you look down, you'll see that polished aluminum or whatever top lurking down inside of there. And you'll know there's a supercharger and a heat exchanger. You'll know that the car means business. Now the cool thing is, I think I'm gonna be able to retain all of this OEM airbox setup. My buddy has gone to a straight cold air intake down inside the fender well, and that freed up a ton of room for him. But my goal is to keep this thing as OEM plus as possible. So therefore I'm gonna try to keep the OEM intake system in place. So we'll get to this in another episode, but again, I want you to focus here on the components to intercool and to utilize a very big heat exchanger. Of course, you might be asking, well, what are the benefits of intercooling? Besides a reduced intake air temperature, so the car tends to, during heat soak, it will actually retard the timing a little bit, and that will decrease your performance. Those knock sensors are pretty sensitive. So as it detects that knock or pre-detonation, it will retard the timing to safeguard the engine and reduce your performance. Another thing that intercooling will allow you to do is to run more boost if you want to. I'm not sure I have near-term plans to do so, but I know I'm only at 7 PSI. I know I could go up to 10. That's where my friend's at, and he's running 450 crank horsepower, which is pretty amazing. I think crank horsepower right now for me is probably 375. So he's got to have about 75 more horsepower on me. Intercooling has a lot of benefits. It safeguards the engine. It does a lot of good, and I'm really looking forward to getting it put in. So if you're not already a subscriber, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment. Stay tuned for episode 2, where I'll go into the heat exchanger fitment in the lower portion of the grill on the 2nd Gen GS. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.